Hiya Mark, great procession the other day up at the range. Just a quick recap on the key points that we discussed. Changed a few minor things. I mean, things are coming on a treat. What I did like at the start of your session, whilst this wasn't the desired outcome, we just bleeded this one off to the right. You see the shaft steepening a little bit too much, just a touch too much flexion going on. Club coming outside the hands at 6, so the club face just a little bit, if you will, too much out in front of the hands. Just ask you to hit that sort of medium push out the push spectrum, and the very next swing you were able to shallow out the shaft a little bit, reduce the flexing forward a little bit, and get the club lining up a little bit more with the hands. One of the problems we talked about was that when you did that, you crossed the line a little bit at the top, and I actually preferred the P4 that I'm seeing here on the top left. That's much more online. That's as good as I've seen you at P4. I really like that position. I think it's strong, it's compact. More importantly for you, it's online. So we wanted to look at improving your ability to get the club in line at P6. Now we know that you load accumulator 2 quite aggressively as you change direction. Anybody who does that is going to get the shaft setting a little bit steeper, if you will, when viewed from down the line than someone who dumps accumulator 2. So if you're from the top, you were to release accumulator 2, the wrists early, the club would drop under plane. As you load 2 quite aggressively, which you can see here from face on, you load 2 very well as you change direction, you're going to get a slight steepening of the shaft. Added to that, that tendency that you've got to flex forward, and that all can end up with a P6 where the club is way too much out in front of us, which you're well aware of. So we're just wanting to introduce a little bit more hip slide throughout the downswing, but at the same time we wanted to control what these arms were doing. The tendency with yourself is to get the club coming out in front of you a little bit too soon, although that's far better than it was. And then from there, use the raising of the handle and the keeping of the flex in the left knee to stop the swing being shifted too far to the left, which is why as you keep the flex in the left knee, the upper body extends and the arms leave the rib cage into that finished position that I know we've discussed in the past you're not very happy with. So we'll see a certain amount of that here as well, although it's a better P6 position. Left knee maintains its flex, club gets thrown out in front of us, arms leave the rib cage, follow through gets a little bit untidy with this left arm popping up in the air a little bit too much here, sign that we've lost connection at some point. When we look at it from face on, there's the flex forward, there's the keeping the left knee flexed, put a little bit more in there as you come through. As you can see, left knee maintained flexed, upper body extending, arms getting a little bit away from us into the finish. So the feeling for you is hit the brakes early, max out the right tilt. And this is what we see here. We're going to stop short, and then we're going to max out the right tilt. Now the act of stopping shorter means that now as you're coming through impact, you're tending to push up off the ground a little bit more, which is great, shallowing out the angle of descent. One of the things we discussed when we looked at it on flight scope was that although the swing is lining up much better than it was, we're still using that downward to create the outward. And what we want with you is you want to shallow that angle of attack. We want an inline swing with an angle of attack of about 4 degrees down, giving us our desired path of about 3 to the right. That's with a mid angle. So stopping much quicker, maxing out the right tilt. And the reason we want to max out the right tilt is continue to slide the hips during the downswing. Remember, when we slide the hips in the finish, our hip slide is in this direction, which allows us to maintain our inclination to the ground, which is also offsetting that extra extension that we're now creating. So bottom right of this screen, beg your pardon, on the bottom right of the screen We're now pushing up more through impact. See the left leg straightening more. So we now need, I mean this was earlier on in your piece, you actually got it straighter than that as the lesson progressed. We now need a little bit more hip slide to offset that. Whereas here, we're extending the upper body a little bit quicker and holding onto that left knee flex for longer. So consequently, we don't need as much hip slide. So stopping short, maxing out the right tilt, introducing a little bit less extension, a little bit less rotation, and a little bit hip slide. You can see a finish there on the bottom left, much more along the lines of what I want to see between now and when we get together next. So hit the brakes, max out the right tilt. It's going to ensure that you have to do all the turning, tilting, extending and sliding at the utmost rate in order to be able to do that. So stop quick, max out the right tilt is the key thought between now and when we get together next. Good luck with it and look forward to watching your progress. Well done.